Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. You like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I'm so excited today to once again be talking with Maya Hawke. Hello again.
Hello again. Good to see you.
Good to see you. You're back with a new record. The last time we talked, you had just done your last album, and here we are once again. I think the last time I might have over-complimented you on your lyrics, and I think I now have to overdo that because your lyrics and poetry on this record is completely off the charts good. It's so good.
Oh, you're so nice. You've heard the whole thing?
I've heard the whole thing. Yeah, I started listening last night and I'm still digesting because it's not a superficial record, and I mean that with every compliment too. This is such a great album.
That is, it's so cool because you're like, no one's heard the records. Like you're like the first person I've really heard say that to me, and that's so exciting. I'm so glad you like it. I mean, maybe you'll be the last, but it's still good to hear. It's so nice of you. I wonder, do you ever have people in your podcast and tell them, well, you've done a shit job? I mean, it's an embarrassment. What do you have to say for yourself? So like, I will take it with a grain of salt, but I appreciate it anyway.
Yeah, I was talking to an artist just the other day where he said he didn't like compliments. So that's how we ended. I said, you know what? You can do better. And, next time, try a little bit harder. So.
Great. Well, cool.
Yeah.
I actually love compliments.
I will keep them coming. I will. Yeah. So let's hear about this one too. Not only is it really great lyrically, and I do want to get to that, but also the sound of it and the way the songs thread in with each other, blend in. I mean, you have these musical suites. It feels like where did you want the sound of this album to go?
So I guess I really wanted when we recorded the record, we basically didn't have a drummer. Our sound engineer, who's a producer in his own right and a drummer in his own right, I don't know how he ended up being the sound engineer, Marshall Vore, played drums on a couple tracks and built some beats, but really it was Christian, Will, Ben, and I, and we kind of wanted it to have, this is like, Ben really produced it, but one of the things I said to him when we were starting out was, I want it to have a pulse, not a beat. And I showed him some examples that he eventually explained to me were called side chains, which I had no idea. And of places where sound gets sort of sucked out, and that's where, and you have the beat because of the absence of sound. And Christian does incredible, ability to finger pick and play rhythm guitar at the same time. And, Will Grave has such an amazing heavy thumb, and he also has the lightest touch ever, but he also can really hammer on those. So I really wanted the beat of the record to come from this kind of pulsing guitar feeling, and of Christian and Will, who are both such incredible guitar players, playing together and doubling each other live. That was something I was really excited about for the sound of the record. I was really excited for it to have a cohesive sound. For example, Ben and I made sure that every sound we used in the record, we used 3 times. Maybe we broke that rule, but for the most part, we really tried not to break the rule. If we introduced, there was one point where I introduced this weird, I was like, oh, I want to go into the bathroom with the microphone and do background vocals in the bathroom. And he was like, okay, but then we have to do it 3 times. And I was like, okay. And there's one place where we're like, oh, look at this weird plastic guitar with these kind of loose strings. Maybe we should do this. It's okay, then we have to do that 3 times.
What a funny rule to set for yourself. Yeah, that's awesome.
It was awesome, but it was to give this record this cohesive feeling. And then the other thing I wanted, other than the sort of pulse without a beat, was smooth but not soft. Which is this sound that I was super inspired by Folklore, and to the point to which I started wanting to work with Jonathan Lowe, who mixed Folklore and who ended up mixing this record, as well as the single that I released a little while ago, because especially for mixing, this ability to have it feel smooth, the idea that you could both run to it and fall asleep to it on an airplane is how I feel about Folklore. And like what's so amazing about that record, and I don't necessarily know that we achieved it, but I aspired to achieve that with this record. Was that kind of that combination of it being both motivating and moving forward without it being like the way some pop music that I love, like it wakes you up from your nap when it comes up on the playlist, you know? And I didn't want anything to like wake you up in that way. I wanted it all to feel like it could be a part of a dream.
Right. Yeah, listening to it, you know, there was those moments. I didn't know, of course, about the way the songs kind of worked with each other. So, you know, at certain points, the first listen, I'm like, wait a second, are we in a different song? We're in a different song now. And my favorite albums, like I love the rock opera, you know, and I love when it really feels like a cohesive kind of deal. So once I started noticing that, I was even more hooked in this.
Well, there are lyrics that come back throughout the record too. Like there are lyrics that, you know, are the chorus in one song that are a random line in another song, and the outro in one that are the intro of the other. So there's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I started. Did Blue pop up a few times?
Yeah.
Like I was noticing that too. So that's so interesting. So, you know, when you've got the record working like that, and I guess I'm going further into what you were saying there, did that change how you were working on it lyrically, or was that something you noticed afterward?
Well, the whole record, really, this record happened as kind of like an emergency, where like really there were 3 songs. There was Terese, Mermaid Bar, and Bloomed Into Blue that I had all written with Benjamin Lazar Davis, where I basically like taken poems that I'd written that I was like, oh, this is just a poem. This could never be a song. It's too it's too weird. It's too crazy. But Ben's such a magical, strange guy, and is so rhythmic. And those poems were all kind of written in some version of like an iambic pentameter, or like pentamic tetrameter, like where the beat was really clear. And like there were the same amount of syllables each line, and the rhyme scheme was really clear. And there were internal rhyme, and like it was really like a lot about how the sounds work together as much as it was about the meaning of the feeling. And Ben, that felt really right for Ben to me. And so we had those 3 songs, and then I had a movie fall apart, which happens all the time. And all of a sudden, instead of 3 days to record 3 songs, I had 2 weeks. And we were sort of like, should we make an album? And Ben was like, yeah. And then he got in touch with Christian and sent Christian some lyrics I'd sent Ben that Ben didn't think were right for Ben. And Christian started writing songs, and then Will Grafe is kind of my best friend, and we just started hanging out, and he's always not wanted to really write music with me because he was always really stressed out by the lyrics first approach, and I've always been really stressed out by the music first approach. Like we both, I think, feel confined by the other way. But then we started writing together where we just did it all at the same time, where we were like sitting in a room, and he would kind of play something I hadn't heard before and keep kind of riffing on an improvisation, and I would improvise lyrics over it, and like most of them would be bad and just kind of scat, like and then some of them would be good, and so all the songs were written in different ways, but they kind of came, I know your question, I'm circling back to it, but they came together as kind of like in this flash of a month, where so we were still writing when we were recording, and it would be like, oh, hey, at the end of Crazy Kid, like, why don't we do a reprise of like we should add another harmony into this outro of like, you glow in the dark, you can take me apart, and like, oh wait, why don't we give him a reprise of South Elroy there, because that'd be a cool harmony. Like it happened really pretty naturally. Yeah
in those moments. I mean, South Elroy, God, that's so far right now, that's my favorite one. It's cool. Like that's, to me, like that's a radio hit right there, you know. It's
hey.
I mean, you got this line, and again, there's so many lines I think I'm still trying to absorb, but the one that stood out right there is what you said, oh my God, I gotta slow down.
Yeah.
And hearing what you have talked about with this record so far, you know, I think I'm paraphrasing some things you said about you know, things that carry you forward, that show you the next place to go, you know, meditation and rebirth. And I hear that line right there, and oh my God, I got to slow down. And I'm probably taking it out of context, maybe to a certain degree, but But what was the forward that you were trying to get to? What is the rebirth in this album?
I think that like a lot of the things that I've been talking about with this record are things that happened after the record was made, where like certain amounts of like feelings I've been having, and like I've been like confidence that's been building, and curiosity, and like and feelings of rebellion, and are like, but what the record felt like to me, I can like demarcate versions of myself from when before I made this record and after. Like it was a break. And sometimes there are those magical moments where like people come together and everyone needs to make something for different reasons. Like everyone has, and then like, but everyone has a real need versus sort of like, this is what we do. We make music, or this is what we do. We make movies. But sometimes you get this thing where everyone comes together and they're like, I actually need to make this record right now. And you're like, oh, wow, great. And I think most of us or all of us had that feeling. And for me, I think I was really using the record. I was shaking off an old self and old ways of being and old habits that were dying really hard. And being like, wait, maybe I don't have to be the person that I've been trying really hard to be. Maybe there are other options. But the other options didn't really start coming into play until after the record was done. And really the record was like about like, oh wow, the version of myself that I am right now, I hate. Like, I don't let's like, can we kill that person off, please? Like, and there are songs in there like Mermaid Bar is sort of about like killing off an old version of yourself to build a new one. Over is about killing off a version of yourself to build a new one. Bloomed into Blue is about that. So like in a very direct way, like there's like deaths or almost deaths in all of those songs. And then other ones are about it in different ways. And I think So Elroy is one of my favorite songs and one of the ones I'm most embarrassed by, because that's one of the ones that like I had the most to do with the music of it. I think I sent Will like a really sad, slow version of that song. And then we worked and we built it up to this thing, but there's lyrics in that song I'm so embarrassed by. Like I was so angry when I was writing that song. And I often think that one's best work like doesn't come from a place of being angry. And even when we were recording it, I was embarrassed by some of the feelings in it. And I was like, God, I hate this. I hate living in these feelings. And then I was sitting in the, like walking down the street, going to get at coffees. And I was like, and I started humming that melody of the, oh my God, I gotta slow down now. And I was like, hey, Christian, is this good? Like, do we like this? Do we need to write a whole new song with this? Or like, and he was like, no, just tack it on to the end. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I tacked it onto the end and just sang it. And then Ben built that beautiful thing with all those harmonies coming in around it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And that's so interesting, that one being one you're embarrassed about, but yet, over here as the listener grabbing onto it instantly, and I still find there's so much to discover on here, and the killing off of yourself. That's the other thing, because we get that first single, Terese, am I saying that right? I was trying to, yeah.
I don't even know if I say it right, but you're saying it as right as I do.
I want to say it like you say it at least. So
right. You can say it like I said, Terese. I think I say it like 3 different ways within the song, so I wouldn't stress.
But it's interesting the way you're talking about killing off characters, and here you are sort of imposing yourself inside another character to reflect yourself. This weird back and forth mirror thing that I kind of got lost in. Once I figured out that that's what you were singing about, like I went back and it's like a movie where it's like, oh no, there's hidden things in this scene, and now you got to go back and like slow motion it and try to find all the ghosts in the background or something like that. But I think that's such an interesting character study, to try to. I don't really know where I'm going with this question, by the way. I'm getting lost in it myself, but is there a sense, I guess, of trying to, you're talking about killing off another version of you, to use these other characters within the song as a way to get away from yourself?
No, no. I think maybe no. I mean, yes, and I mean get away from yourself. I think I would more say get closer to yourself.
Okay.
And like I think that, you know, like what I really mean to do with Terese is that like, and I'm very happy for anyone to interpret it however they want to. But it's really about like two things to me, that song. One is about like kind of the male gaze, and both like the way that the male gaze affects art, but even more the way that male gaze affects growing up as a young woman. And like the way that your body that isn't even sexual to you yet can get sexualized and weaponized against you as you go through puberty, and like you can be like all of a sudden, like, you know, your boobs grow that you don't even understand, and people are like, you got to cover those things, and you're like, why? Like 2 months ago I was like running around like topless at the beach, and now I'm not allowed to do that. And like what? And like, and that's not about me. It's not like nothing. I didn't do anything. I didn't change. It's like it's because of how it makes you feel. Like, and then but then those narratives get so programmed into your brain, and you have to kind of like rescue as an adult woman. I think you sort of have to, or like an adult AFAB person, you sort of have to go and like rescue yourself from the narrative of that was made for you that you didn't have control over. And so I think it's sort of about that to me. And this girl in this painting was someone when I was a young girl, just looked free to me. Like didn't look like, I didn't think about the painter. I didn't think, like it just seemed like it existed, and it was like a photograph of this kind of unencumbered like young woman who was sort of confident and relaxed and unself-conscious. And then I got older, and I like people would talk about it like and I was like, oh my God, wait, like someone took this image of her, like, oh, and like caption, like, does that make it creepy? Was he being creepy? And is it like, oh no? And like this girl who to me as a young girl just looked free, now I'm wrapped up in this whole male gaze of what the capturing of her image meant to him and is supposed to mean to me now. And like, and it just reminded me of ways I felt about myself, ways in which my friends and I felt about, like, wait, I'm not even being totally articulate. It's all so complicated. And so it's about that. And then in a positive way, it's also about like the speaker and Terese are both the same person and are different people to me. And it's also about like the relationships we build with or that I got to have with other like young girls at school, and and people in my life now, where like things like gender don't matter, and where you build these like little quiet rooms and these places where you're free and you're yourself and you don't feel encumbered by that gaze, and how amazing those spaces are and how life-changing they are, and how much aspects of society do not want you to have them and encroach upon those spaces and try to make you jealous of each other or hate each other or make you feel ashamed of like your desire or whatever. Like there's all these things. So I guess it's a big song for me.
Yeah. And especially, you know, hearing the lines about take it off the wall, which, you know, as I understand, really did happen because of the way it looked, and the way that sort of, as I hear it, starts speaking to what's going on, of course, and everything you said in the Supreme Court thing that you've been talking, you know, that we've all been talking about. You know, it seems like that moments, even specifically that little moments among the many, starts to say so much more in this wider context, in the most unfortunate of ways. But you know, compliments on the power of arts, I guess, is what I'm getting to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know if it accomplishes any of the goals that I wanted it to. I don't know if it does anything. I just know that those are the places that I was coming from when I was writing it, and the things that it's starting to mean to me as time goes on. And as I explored making a video for it and all that stuff. So yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. And the artwork, by the way, I want to quickly hit on, just because seeing the two versions of you, like, is that the symbolism that we're getting at with a lot of this interview?
Yeah, there's definitely like double self stuff going within the whole record. And I think that was a part of the journey that I was on, was that I created really, like, in so many ways, I mean, many versions of myself, but at least two. And like, and one was like true self and one was false self. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I'd been spending a lot of time living in false self. And the kind of record is a journey of like trying to kill off the false self, at least. You always, of course, you always have to be like, I mean, I can't be 100% my true self the way that I am like with my family in this interview, but I feel a lot closer to that person than I used to. And I think I was my false self in more places that the false self doesn't belong. Like in more of my intimate relationships and more things than I knew. And I really wanted to stop doing that. And so a lot of those songs are like trying to figure out how to kill off the false self.
Yeah. It's beautifully done. It really is all the way through. And I don't mean to use the word beautiful as this catch-all because it's also pretty record. I just mean it's so well constructed and well.
I'm not afraid of beautiful. Beautiful's good.
I know we're probably running short on time, and I want to make the obvious transition here to also Stranger Things because that's been such a big part. I fucking loved the new season. But Thanks. It's interesting as we're talking about. Do you find those parallels in what Robin's going through at the time too? Because it seems to be a character that puts on the projection of being self-assured at the same time as how much does she actually know herself? I mean, are those parallels there as well?
I love that you see Robin as being self-assured. I feel like most people see Robin as being like kind of not like insecure and like, or and like kind of like nervous and like silly. I kind of see Robin as being self-assured too, because she's just sort of being like can't really help but be herself. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and again, this kind of goes back, actually, like does loop back to the record in that, like, I think when I was young, like when I was a kid, before puberty, and like even in aspects of high school, I couldn't help being myself. And there were places where that was punished. Like, or I experienced it as being punished or discouraged. And that's where you build the false self, because you're like, whoa, people not liking my real self is really scary. And like people, so I'm going to build this like shell to protect myself. And I think that Robin is like both, is sort of in that amazing transition period of having kind of been the true self. The child self is still there. She's really young, mm-hmm. but also has the weight of society encroaching in, kind of pressuring her to build a false self. But then the kind of both the friendship with Joe and the stakes of what's going on in their environment make it kind of impossible for that to be the center focus of her life. Like the center focus of her life is this friendship and these like I love that scene in the finale where Joe and Robin are talking and Robin's like, I don't care about my love life right now. Like, dude, like I don't, and of course she does care, but she's also like mature and is like got a lot of other stuff going on. And you matter to me. And like these relationships matter to me. And I'm gonna figure, and that's kind of the nice thing about friendships and adventure and like is that they can kind of take you out of the game of society and put you into just, you have to be yourself because you don't have enough energy to be anyone else. And I think that's also a way that I've been feeling as like I've been working more and all this stuff is like, oh wow, keeping up a false persona under this schedule is just a little difficult. I'm just too tired.
That's such a real moment too. I mean, a real moment because, you know, in movies, the world is ending. You know, I think any normal person in a reality moment is just going to be concerned with the person in front of them is more than sort of the, you know, I agree. It does make for a more grounded, real. The characters are so like everybody on this show dealing with their own personal, you know, coming of age crisis. And it's so put together so well in that. So, yeah. It's a magical thing that you guys are making. and I can't wait to see where it goes.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and I quickly, I know because music's such a big part of it too. Obviously, God, Kate Bush and everything that's happening, and Metallica this week as well. You know, for I know the general question was asked to a lot of you. You're like, what's your Vecna song? But you know, kind of further in on that, you know, with Robin, like what's Robin listening to? Where's her mode of music? I mean, do you use that? And I'm asking for the real you using that going into the character to kind of think about her musically in that sense?
You know, I've always been embarrassed that that's never really been something I did as an actor.
Yeah.
I've like, sometimes directors have made me playlists and been like, these are the important songs for this character. I'm like, great, cool. And sometimes, and like, I've never, and maybe I should, I've never really used that as a way in. Yeah, there are times where like there's music that like helps me get into the mood of a scene, but I never really go like based on eras in that way. Like I'm not like I feel like I do that in a sort of timeless way where I'm like, oh, this feels right for this scene, for this moment, and like I'm gonna get my feelings in the right place. But I've never really built like a character through kind of a playlist or a landscape in that way. Yeah, I probably should start.
You know, it's always there. It's but again, if you pulled it off this well, you're doing something right now. So
yeah, thanks. I mean,
don't let me impede your process.
I build like quotes and behavioral patterns and like histories and all the stuff, but there's something, especially with period stuff, I feel like for contemporary things I do it more, and especially if a character is really different than me. But Robin is so similar to me. I mean, like Robin's almost like a cartoon of me or something, like that. I don't feel like I need to, like, if I was playing Eddie, like I would listen to tons of like metal, like I would like try to get into that, but I'm playing Robin, and like Robin would like Phoebe Bridgers, you know, I don't know, like Robin, like I think like and so it's like whatever I'm listening to at the moment at the time, like I don't know, like Robin would like the people I like, I think, and so it's fine is sort of how I feel.
Phoebe's she's one of the amazing ones, and so you're doing some dates with Faye, right? Faye Webster.
Yeah, I think Robin would really like Faye.
Yeah. No, that's gonna be fun. I think you guys are playing Nashville. I'm in here in Louisville. I'm gonna try to make down for that trip to see that show. So it's.
Oh my God! Well, just to warn you, I'm absolutely terrified to my core. I mean, I'm just so nervous. I can't believe how nervous I am. So, you know, I did no pressure.
No pressure. You know what? I'll tell you this. You can do better. You're.
I mean, you for sure will be able to tell me that after you see the live show.
No, I believe in you. I do believe in you. And seriously, just all the compliments. Where you've gone in Stranger Things, I think you have proven also that you're one of the actors who could go toe to toe on like an Aaron Sorkin or an Amy Sherman Palladino script at this point. Like I'd love to see that collaboration happen. You
mean just because of my fast talking?
Because you're fast talking.
Cool.
Takes a certain type of actor to pull that off. Moss is so good. Maya, congratulations on this. And thank you for taking the time to talk about it.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. You're an amazing interviewer. It's my honor. And I'm so excited for people to hear it.
Right on.